Hey Playas, Merry Christmas and welcome to the Playas Guide Christmas Special episode where I'll be talking about Christmas games on your Nintendo Entertainment System. There may be a few games that you do know of and have heard of on the Nintendo Entertainment System, but hopefully you walk away from this episode with some new ones that you have never heard of. One of those games I'm going to start off with is called Christmas Land. So this is a homebrew for the NES. You play as this Teletubby-looking monkey character. This is a action platformer, but as far as I could tell, you can't really die or lose in this game. You just collect different objects. So you'll start off going around collecting things like gingerbread men. You collect candy canes. You could collect presents in the mall. And I believe it's all on a quest to find Santa. This is a fun one to play with little kids because it's not too challenging or frustrating. It controls fairly well, and it is just a basic game. But like I said, for kids, it's enjoyable. Or if you just want to get yourself in the Christmas mood, it's a game that certainly does a very good job of that. Now, if you're not familiar with the 8-Bit Xmas games, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of those games right now. These are NES homebrew games released every year by Retro USB. You could go ahead and pick yours up now. I'm still expecting one in the mail. The newest one, it's called Excite Duck. That's 8-Bit Xmas 2021. And this is a game where you're playing as ducks racing in sleighs, and the gameplay is very similar to that of Excite Bike. But let's start right at the beginning. The very first one that introduced blinking lights and 8-Bit Xmas chiptunes, and that is 8-Bit Xmas 2008. I believe there was a very limited print of this, and it makes it the hardest 8-Bit Xmas game to find. They were sold on Nintendo Age and Retro USB, so the title screen says Nintendo Age, which is a favorite site of mine that has long since shut down, and I miss it dearly. But moving on to 2009, the 8-Bit Xmas cartridge would contain a game called Snowball Fight, where you could play up to as 4 players on a 4 score, or you could play single player against the computer, and you're throwing snowballs from each section of the screen at your opposing enemies. Now, the tradition continues every year with the blinking lights and the Christmas music. The 8-Bit Xmas cartridge had a game where you are Santa flying over a city delivering presents. I love the idea and concept of this game. The following year, it was another great concept of a fireplace, and it also came with a fireplace game, where you are bouncing balls back and forth across the screen to each corner where there is a fireplace. It's a 4-player game. You can play with friends or against the computer. 2012's 8-Bit Xmas game was a biplane dogfight. You can play up to 4 players in this game, and I would recommend, if you can get a group together and play with some friends, this game can be a lot of fun. In 2013, it was a Santa in a Sleigh Space Invaders type space shooter game. 2014 saw another very unique game on the 8-Bit Xmas cartridge, a game called Killer Queen Arcade. This game can be played alone on your game controller, your gamepad controller, or you can bust out 2 power pads and play as 6 players. I got some footage of that here from a few years ago for you to take a look at from an NES-a-thon where we did just that, and it's a game of capture the flag. If you're able to pull this off, it is a blast to play. It can get a little bit confusing and chaotic, but that's part of the fun. Also, the title screen on this, if you want to go even further and set your Rob up, give him a little Christmas hat, he will dance to the Christmas music playing on the title screen. 2015 was an excellent homebrew game called 12 Seconds, where you have 12 seconds to pile up presents which you are going to leap off of and use to propel yourself towards certain platforms to exit each stage, and there is a ton of different stages to play in this one. In 2016, we got a Xmas pinball game on the 8-Bit Xmas cartridge. 2017 was a compilation of all the previous 8-Bit Xmas games. This one, the really cool thing about this is it had an LCD screen for the label, as you can see here, that would change labels on that screen for all of the different games as you cycled through them or played them. In 2018, it was a skiing game, which seems a little basic to you maybe when you're looking at it here, but I am addicted to this game. It plays similar to Ski Free, but better, in my opinion, and I have a lot of fun with this one, so I would recommend it. 2019, we got Study Hall 2. So if you played Study Hall 2, very similar, does not disappoint. A little bit different because you're in Study Hall at Christmas time and you're dreaming of Christmas presents that you're collecting. This is a full game, not a mini game like some of these other games, and it is excellent. 2020, we got kind of a goofy version of Dr. Mario called Dr. Kovio, where you are fighting the Christmas pandemic. You're fighting COVID by dropping pills on the virus. And as I mentioned earlier, 2021 got Excite Duck. Now let's talk about some games that are on the NES. First off, you may not have thought of this game, Power Blade 2. Yeah, the ultra rare action platformer Power Blade 2 takes place on Christmas Eve 20XX. So what you see in the game here, you have all happening on Christmas Eve. Now, I do have a couple gripes with this game. It is fun, and it would be considered a hidden gem if it wasn't renowned for its rarity. But because it is, you probably know about this one, and maybe you've played it, maybe you haven't. It's definitely worth a play. But, you know, there are a few letdowns to the game, such as deaths by falling off the screen while it is scrolling. It does get very difficult and challenging. If you're looking for other difficult and challenging games, though, from Christmas time on the NES, consider the movie-based game Die Hard. Now, here's another one that kind of falls in that same boat, and maybe Power Blade was ripping it off a little by basing it on the Christmas Eve concept, because the game itself really doesn't have anything to do with Christmas. But if you've seen the movie, it takes place at Christmas time. And, you know, this game, I guess I'm kind of grasping for anything here. It is taking place at Christmas time. So in the game, if you haven't played it, I'll tell you a little bit about this one, but I'm sure some of you have played this game already. You are going around as John McClane and you're shooting up the bad guys and you're moving your way. Each stage is a different level of the building that the terrorists have taken over. Now, there is some stealth aspects to this game which I find highly enjoyable. So if you're into stealth games like Metal Gear, this is probably the next closest thing that you're going to find on your NES, at least that I have played. I got two more, and if you know of any other Christmas games that you would like to mention, please feel free to do so in the comments below. Home Alone and Home Alone 2. But let's start off with Home Alone. This one's pretty basic. You're going around your house collecting and then setting up by dropping these different traps that the burglars are going to hit and then get slowed down. And like the movie, you want to escape through the window to the treehouse and then run down into the basement and escape the burglars. Home Alone 2 has you... Well, haven't really made it too far in this game, so all I could tell you about it is that you start off in a hotel in New York. There's several different enemies this time around to avoid, and there are a few traps to be set, but they are not as important as they are in the first game. Now, neither of those games, the Home Alone games on the NES, or even the Super Nintendo for that matter, I find to be... all that great. But like I said, there's a comment section. You guys can give me your opinion there. And while you're at it, please subscribe to the channel, because one small click from you is a big difference to Playas Guide. And if you like what you see, tap that bell icon. I love to tap it. You know I'll be tapping it all night long. And you can follow Playas Guide on Instagram, Twitter, and join our Discord if you're looking for a retro gaming, video game collecting community. I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and get lots of retro gaming in if you get any time off, and spend it with your families. Until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.